a lot of people don't realize she writes a lot of the puzzles on the show. She became that devoted. Yes, she does a lot for that show, publicity and everything, probably more than Pat ever did, to be honest.
And welcome once again to the Talking Archive. I'm Josh Jacobs. Our guest is Wesley Hyatt, the author of 11 entertainment books, including his brand new one, I'd Like to Buy a Vowel, spinning 50 years of Wheel of Fortune. Now, last time we discussed his being on Stu's show, which is at stusshow.com. That's STUS show.com. And Stu has contact with Johnny Gilbert. Did Johnny interview for your book? Because occasionally he would fill in as announcer on Wheel of Fortune.
I didn't interview Johnny. I did do a couple of people who worked on Jeopardy as well as Wheel of Fortune at the time there. As I said, M.G. Kelly was the main one I interviewed in terms of announcing. I also talked to, well, I was the widow of the original announcer on the show.
Charlie O'Donnell?
Let me get her name. I want to try and make sure I got it correct here. I don't want to. I should know these things offhand. Shows you how well I'm doing with all my knowledge here.
I worked with Machine Gun Kelly, by the way, as an intern about 32 years ago when he was afternoons on Oldies 93. He's really awesome. And that stretch where he'd oftentimes go, Machine Gun! That was real. That was not a loop. That was actually him doing that. And really, really, really nice guy.
Wow. That's fantastic. I can't. Anyway, it was the widow of Charlie O'Donnell, and they met. She noted Ellen Lerner O'Donnell. That's what it was. They met. She said the first time. I'm embarrassed to tell you, but we met on the revival of the Gong Show when he was announcing that in the late '80s, and they hit it off immediately. But she told them, "Look, I've been through a lot of relationships. I don't want to rush into this. Let's do that, So he took some time, but they warmed up eventually, and I think he proposed to her on New Year's Eve, and and then they got together in 1989, and he went back to doing the show in 1989 after he got rid of the fun job of hosting the Gong Show revival, and he stayed there and stayed with her until he passed away, about 20 years later. And it was, she still misses him to the day. They were definitely in love, and, everybody who did the show loved Johnny, and he was the one who kind of set the tone for the thing right on the pilot where he announced the prizes, a spinette, all on Wheel of Fortune. He would exaggerate it so it sounded like a circular movement, so you got the idea. Oh, it's a wheel, he was just in such demand, but he also was very helpful. He helped Gary Owens get his start in the L.A. market, and Dick Clark, when he passed away, Dick Clark, even though Dick Clark was going through a stroke, he was determined. He showed up for the memorial services for him. He was just very well loved. Yeah. And if you ever see, they've got it on YouTube, Pat Sajak announcing his departure, you can just tell Pat is just fighting off tears and everything, just holding back to tell everyone we've lost him, and we miss him a great deal.
Did you get to meet Charlie O'Donnell? Because I remember he was at several game show Congress conventions. Did you get to say hello to him?
I don't think I did. I did get to meet Don Pardo, and he was a character of himself there too. But, frankly, this is so embarrassing, but I think the ones I was harassing most of the time were Ronnie Greenberg, the longtime producing right there, and I was just in awe. I had my jaw drop down when I met Wink Martindale, and Tom Kennedy became good friends with him, and just, oh gosh, he was just the best.
Yeah, Tom was really nice, and even his I got to meet two of his kids, Julie and Skip, and they're so friendly too.
His whole family was so wonderful.
Oh yeah,
still are. The him and the Narses are just the best.
Oh yeah, I got to hang out with David Nars at the Quiz Show Expo back in June, And
oh, wow.
We've got a lot of mutual friends we didn't even know. And so
yeah. Yeah, that's true. I'm not surprised.
Dave gave me an autograph picture of Jack, as well as a publicity shot, a headshot of Bill as well. So that was like meant the world. Jack had signed a bunch of pictures years ago, and Dave has a bunch of them still.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, they were really wonderful, you know, and but I did, as I said before, I talked to about 60 some people there, including I talked to Summer Bartholomew. She was considered to be a replacement for Susan Stafford when she left, but when she came up to Pat Sajak, Pat is not as quite as tall as Chuck Woolery. Mm-hmm. And with Summer in heels, she actually was towering over Pat a little bit. So she said right there when it happened, I'm like, I'm not going to get the full-time gig, you know. So luckily, you know, she later became a model there on Sale of the Century.
That's
and
right.
That was good for her at the time there. But, yeah, she was. And, in fact, Summer had been substituting for Susan Stafford all the way back to 1977 when Susan injured her back. And Susan said when she saw that there, she was like, you know, this show, I'm not indispensable to this show, and I need to find something else to do. And that kind of led her to her path eventually to her, I guess you'd call it spiritual awakening that she had, and, you know, what she continues to do today as a chaplain and, you know, helping people in times of crisis, which I think is great. It's the show business. I can understand, you know, her when she told them she was leaving at Wheel of Fortune. She said, "I'm leaving because I have a higher calling." They're like, "You want more money, or you're going to go to The Price is Right." What is it? You can't be leaving us because you want to help people, do you? But she's proven them wrong, and is still out there, very active, and just looks and sounds great. She's wonderful.
In fact, she gave a foreword to Shelley Herman's book about My Peacock Tale, which just came out last year.
Yeah, that's a good book. Anyone gets that, very good. Shelley Herman, definitely get it there. Shelley has some great tales to tell about that, and also about things on the show itself. She told me that, you know, when they were taping Wheel of Fortune, Susan would be the one more interacting with the audience than Chuck was during the breaks, you know.
Wow.
Yeah, she'd be like, I'll take your thing. Of course, Susan had some, as she said it, you know, some weird followers, you know, and there'd be people like asking, you know, requesting that she send locks of her hair to them in the mail. It's like, oh my gosh, you know. So it was not only Vanna having. Vanna had her own share of wackos. Vanna had to be put in, you know, pretty much in protective custody. They are coming and going from the show because of the threats or the insinuations they got on her during her. Well, pretty much from the outset, you know.
It was interesting. I remember Vanna doing an interview back in the mid to late 80s. I read it, I think it was People magazine, and she said that when she goes to the supermarket, she doesn't wear makeup. Yeah,
I can imagine that. I imagine she tries to get things as normal as ever. She and Pat really have done that. They one of the things they did that they liked that Harry Friedman did was they said, Harry, can we just tape the shows in the mornings and afternoons rather than afternoons and evenings? You know, just do it so it's more regular hours and we have, you know, the night to ourselves. And like, sure. So he did that. And, you know, they've got a schedule now. Now it's being Ryan Seacrest, where they are taping just basically only 40 days a year. You know, they tape 5 shows per taping. Mm-hmm. So that's got them covered there for that and the reruns. So
that's right, yeah.
You know, so they only have to do a couple of weekends and they're set and can do whatever else they want, you know. And in Pat's case, he's been living in Maryland, you know, pretty much when he's not on the show anymore. And he'll have more time in Maryland now that he's retiring.
Yeah, I remember he used to live in Glendale, California, and moved to Annapolis years ago. In fact, about 2 months ago, I went to a taping with my friend Lisanne and her two daughters, who are ages 11 and 13, and we went. Originally, we were going to do 3 episodes, but it was taking so long, we decided, let's just do 2 episodes instead. And then we joined her friends for dinner that night. And it was interesting. We did win some door prizes. But one thing I will criticize the current Wheel of Fortune staff, if they're listening, please have snacks for people as well as water, because it was such a long taping that some shows do provide snacks like candy bars or pretzels or peanuts.
Yeah.
They need to do that because it was just taking such a long time due to some technical glitches that were happening. Mm-hmm. But it was a fun experience nonetheless. And, Ryan and Vanna both interacted with the audience. Ryan was a bit rusty, but I think he's going to get into the groove, hopefully. I mean, I can see that, but, he's just, since he's unfamiliar with the show and its dynamics, I think he will do a good job eventually. It's just a little bit, what's the word, birth pangs, if you will, as far as new experiences are concerned.
And they say they're going to, when it comes on this fall, that it's going to be probably some of his later episodes, more recent ones, because then he'll have worked out the kinks, and it'll move more smoothly.
Very smart, actually.
Yeah. That's a luxury you have there nowadays with being taped like that and getting it together. And also, Harry Friedman said there the advantage too during his tenure, he started in 1996 there as the executive producer. They, went to basically doing just one show for a winter. You only had one show and everything. And the advantage to that also was that he could schedule what episodes, when they were to air. Mm-hmm. He could switch them up. If there would be like some, that would get more attention, then he would, slate it for like, all right, this one's we got a winner here, so this will be the winner on Tuesday. And then, this is a close one, we'll put it on a Thursday. That sort of thing. So it's a big advantage that they have that I don't think we even had that advantage even until before the 90s, really, to do that sort of thing. So, or at least not the initiative. So,
plus Harry was the one who switched it from flip letters manually to the touch screen. How much blowback was there from viewers when that happened?
Not that I could tell, not that much, because they still had Vanna on there. He was wise enough. There were some people when he got there who were like, okay, let's get rid of Vanna. She's in her late 30s and doing that, and he's like, no, we're not going to. She's identified. She does a lot for this show. In fact, a lot of people don't realize she writes a lot of the puzzles on the show.
Wow.
She became that devoted. Yes, she does a lot for that show, publicity and everything, probably more than Pat ever did, to be honest. Mm-hmm. And because she knew it was her savior for her. She had, the number of jobs she had and professional jobs she had in L.A. when she got there before she did Wheel of Fortune, you could count on one hand, almost literally. There were like 2 or 3 movies and 1 or 2 TV shows. And that the show really just saved her, turned her life around, and she's been repaying it ever since. Harry also was what got him kind of the executive producer's job was when they came on, they wanted to see him, see what he thought about the show. And speaking of taping, when they used to do the taping on the show with the manual things, they had to bring the puzzles, switch them out, one by one.
Oh, yeah.
And it would take them about 45 minutes to maybe an hour to tape a half-hour show because of that, having to set up and, put them in there. And he told them, he said, you've got to do something to change it because it's killing the life out of the show. As best as people are doing with the taping, said, you've got to do it there because otherwise it's just going to drain everyone soon from doing that. And that's when he got there, that was one of his first things to do. And I think it was in February of 97 that they debuted the touchtone thing, And so now, as many people say, the way it is right now, with basically Vanna just waving her hands over it, they really don't need a Vanna there, but they do in the sense that the audience has become to accept and expect someone there for that.
Oh,
and that's why, even though she kept on telling everybody, well, when Pat leaves, I'm going to leave, they must have offered her a good amount of money to stay on there, because I think Sony is worried that if both of them left, the audience would leave too. There's no guarantee. Even though Ryan Seacrest is a known name, that's not going to necessarily mean people are going to show up and follow him on the show.
Yeah.
Especially nowadays with the fragmented viewing audiences that we have. So the belief is she'll probably stay there for, I think she's got another 2-year contract. Mm-hmm. And then after that, most likely, I think Pat's daughter Maggie will take over.
I think she would be a good idea, because she's already connected with the show as far as the social media presence is concerned. She's done, in fact, she filled in for Vanna when Vanna filled in for Pat. That was an experiment that didn't go quite well, but, Maggie did a great job of the puzzle. Plus, she's beautiful, bubbly, sparkly personality. I think she'd be perfect as the eventual successor to Vanna.
Yeah, I do too. I think it'll probably work out that way unless something changes that we don't know about yet. But yeah, I think they're going to be pretty much on that schedule to have it be set up that way, and I wouldn't be surprised, and I think the show should hold up pretty well in the meantime. Everything right now, there's been a lot of erosion on I guess they call it linear TV, mm-hmm. but Wheel of Fortune is still such an established name out there that I don't think it's going to go anywhere anytime soon.
Oh, definitely not. And I guess the question I have, oftentimes, like last year they said this is Wheel of Fortune's 40th anniversary, when us real fans know that it's actually more 48 now, 49 years. Why do they keep on saying just the 40th instead of like the 49th or et cetera?
They want to count only the time that they've had it in syndication, and that they've had their involvement in keeping it that way. And I guess they think it sounds better than, coming up on 50, but I don't know. I'm saying the record straight and saying it's 50. And I know that, I know that I talked with Susan, and she was very impressed when I showed her the cover. I think she was shocked that they would show anything would have a picture with her and Chuck on it, because nowadays it's just Pat and Vanna, and it's almost like their entire history has been pushed aside. And I've tried to do a good job in the book of telling everybody what it was like during the first 6 or 7 years that she and Chuck were in charge on the show, mm-hmm. and how they let things progress and get it there too. And even if it is the 40th, I was actually surprised they haven't done anything like that, a book on it themselves, Mm-hmm. But then again, think about what we've had there. Was Price is Right, 50 years old on mm-hmm. CBS, nothing, no book on it. Young and the Restless, they turned 50 back last year, no book on them.
Wow.
So I was looking, I said, okay, I'm probably going to do this, and there may be a book or two, but I'd be surprised. And right now, with it being out there, I guess someone, if they're hurried enough, they're like, oh, well, we can get one out in time for January, maybe, but, they're going to have a hard time, I think, researching and getting everything together like I've gotten it there. It's been nice. I've been very much enjoyed the responses I've gotten from the players that I interviewed for the book. They've all been very respectful. Everyone seems to like what I said about them and remembering them, and other things they've learned about the show that they either forgot and never heard about. So, that's made me feel like I'm done good that way.
Well, it's something I forgot to tell you earlier when I went to the taping of Wheel of Fortune with my friends. Jim Thornton was asking questions of the audience to win prizes. Yep. And he said, what year did Wheel of Fortune debut? And I just immediately shot up my hand and said, January 6, 1975. He says, yep. So at least I'm glad he didn't say, sorry, it's 1983. We're talking with Wesley Hyatt, author of the new book, I'd Like to Buy a Vowel, Spinning 50 Years of Wheel of Fortune, which you can get at Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, also your local mom and pop shop, and check out the website, bearmanormedia.com. That's BEARMANORmedia.com. MANOR media.com. You can also get it there. And next time, Wesley talks about a time he went to visit the set of a Chuck Woolery game show that was on during the millionaire craze.